Alright, welcome everybody to the Drop Dice Painting channel, Sigma Painter. What we're going to be doing today is learning how to create these concrete road bases for Primaris bikes, Orc bikes, or any other kind of bikes that you want to have. Or if not for a bike, just any kind of model you want on this sort of base. So we're going to take you through the step-by-step process here on how to do this. And first what we're going to do is just create a little cork base for it. So what I'm using is just this little cork I bought off Amazon. It's nothing special. It's pretty thin. You can go thicker. Basically what I'm going to do, since it's a little thinner, is just create layers with it. So I cut out a little piece and I'm just going to size it up a little bit on the base and just tear and go. So you can play with it. It's not a perfect science. It can be irregular just because, you know, we're making it, or at least I'm making it a little bit more distressed. If you guys want to do it more form-fitting, obviously you could use scissors or an X-Acto knife to do that. There we go. And then I'm just going to layer it up, just create some more depth. Now, if you want, you can keep it like that, or you could also create potholes. And I've also used these little bits and pieces and put them under or over the first layer. So that way, when I put the second layer over it, it creates more of like an unbalanced terrain. So for a pothole, literally, I'm just using an X-Acto knife, and we're just gonna cut a little chunk out of it. There we go. Again, nothing special. We're just kind of making it up as we go, and it'll all kind of come together in the end. So after this point, I'm going to start creating more of that imperfect base when it comes to the concrete itself. So for this, you guys could either use the Citadel Astro Granite, but for me, what I like to do personally is I like to use the Vallejo Thick Mud acrylic, just because it makes more sense. It's a little cheaper for a bigger pot. And what I like to do with it is put it in a little pot and then create more grains with it by using a little mixture I kind of created myself here. And you guys can either purchase something like that, or basically what I did is when our road was being worked on during construction, there was a lot of leftover just dirt and mud and whatever it may be. I just collected that and I use it for this. So what I did was put a little bit of astrogranite mud, a little bit of like the small grains of that, and water, and I mixed it all together, and I created this little concoction here. It's easier to spread because the mud itself is very thick, so you want to at least water it down a little bit, and that way you can work all the little grains into it. So from here, I'm just going to spread it all over the base. There we go. Simple as that. And then just to create a little bit more of that concrete feel, or that road feel around where the cork does not exist, all I'm going to do is just take some Mod Podge, an old dirty brush, and just lay some more of that gravel down. So just going to take that, and we're going to put it kind of where the outside is, everywhere on the outside, or wherever you want to put it. And then all I'm going to do from here is take the gravel and just kind of dig for the finer grains. And I'm just going to let them fall through my fingers all over the little base here. And you're going to get it everywhere, and that's fine. creates a little bit more depth, like I said. All right, and then from there, just turn it over, give it a couple taps, and this is kind of what you end up with. That's right here. And then to make all that stick a little bit more, the Mod Podge does a pretty good job, and then having the mud on there helps it stick as well. But for me, I'd like to add a little bit of the spray adhesive right over it. It does a really good job at allowing everything to stick on base for a long period of time. Nothing's really gonna fall off from my experience with it. It takes a little bit to dry, but after it's all dried up, that sticky feeling goes away. So you just gotta be a little bit patient with it. But since this is gonna take a minute to dry out, I pre-made a couple till this stage here. And then pretty much at this point, we're just gonna start painting it up. So I'll be using my airbrush. And if you don't have an airbrush, you can also just paint it by hand. That's should not be a problem either. To start off, I'm going to be using the Vallejo model air paints. This one right here is Dunkel Gray, I believe, or Panzer Gray. I don't know. Panzer Dark Gray. This is the one I'm using at the moment. So even though this is airbrush paint, I still like to thin it down a little bit just because airbrushes are pretty temperamental. Everybody that uses them kind of understands that they don't really work as well as we want them to all the time. So just that being said, we're just going to mix it up a little bit, and I'm just going to put my finger right on the tip and just give it a little bit of a squeeze. All right, so we got our gray paint in. And we're just gonna, you can probably wear gloves. I'm just not because I'm reckless. But I'm just gonna spray it all over. So then from there, I just kind of go a little bit lighter and just work the colors. I'm gonna be using dark sea gray from here. So it's just slightly lighter. When I get the corners, just because the side of the cork doesn't always get the attention it needs. And from here, I'm just going to mix a little bit of the dark sea gray with a light gray. And you just want to spray it at like random points. Okay. And then from here, you can just keep layering, creating lighter colors. It's not a perfect science. You just kind of spray wherever you feel it would look good. And then if you feel at all that you made it a little bit too light, you can always go back in with the darker color and just spray those areas. And now for the little stripes. Basically what I did for them was create a small template out of cardboard. So it's just a little piece of cardboard. I cut it out with an X-Acto knife. I drew where I wanted the lines to be, and then I just again use an X-Acto knife to just cut them out. Now pretty much all I do is just line it up wherever I want it and just spray it down. So for the yellow, I'm just going to be using Citadel, and we're just going to thin it down. So I'm going to start with the Flash Grits yellow. Pretty bright color, but we're just going to numb those tones as we go. Okay, so since I'm thinning it myself, I typically like to just test it out, see if it's too watered down or not watered down enough. So I just use a little piece of paper. I think that looks pretty good. And I'll just line this up wherever I feel like I want it. You could do a half a stripe and a full stripe, or a full stripe or 2 full stripes. So we're just going to lay it down like that and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Just go ahead and put that in there. Okay, that's kind of what you come up with. And now we're pretty much going to create a darker tone, and we're going to use the Everland Sunset for that. Okay, line this right back up. It's better if you guys actually wait for all your paint to dry after airbrushing. That way they don't seep into each other. But we're just going for it. Okay. And from here you can even darken it up with some of that gray that we were working with. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, it's nice and dirty. So you can keep it nice and clean, or you can do what I'm doing and just making it a little messy. I'm not gonna put that all over it, just at like maybe the corners, just like a little spurt of it. And I just play with it like that. I do just a little bit more right on this corner. There we go. Alright, now you can just play with any imperfections that you feel is in it. So if you want to go back with some grays, you can go back with some grays and touch it up, because the yellow does sometimes get everywhere. So I can do that for you guys. I'm just going to clean this out one more time. Okay, let's touch it up. So clean a little bit of the yellow that spread everywhere because the paints were a little wet. If you go a little over, you could probably just dab it with your finger and it'll clean it up a little bit. Yeah. Just like that. And then I'm just going to brighten some places up just for fun. And then there we go. That's all she wrote. As I end up with a little bit of a weathered look. And also, if you want, what you can do is take some Citadel Ushabi Bone and with a dry brush, kind of go over it. So I can show you guys how that looks on one of these bad boys that I've already completed. So here's a completed one that's all dried up and ready to go. So I'm going to take an old worn out brush. It's a little tired. I'm going to shake this up. Grab a little bit of that bone. Clean it off. I'll just hit the top of the base. So for highlighting, you guys are more than welcome to do something like that. And that's kind of what it comes out to. So it adds a little bit to it, but just having it as is, just like that, works just as well. So it's really up to you guys and what your preferences and what you guys are going for your models. So this is the finished product. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. And for everybody who is just jumping in just to learn how to do these bases, Drop Dice is our D&D podcast. We could put a link in the description if you guys are interested in listening to it. It's a Warhammer fantasy-based podcast. In a D&D, or actually backwards. It's a D&D podcast based in a Warhammer fantasy setting. So if you guys are interested in listening to that, please check us out, and looking forward to see you guys in our next video. Thank you.